That's testing, yes.
Testing 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, test.
Good.
Lee.
Welcome. I would like to call this meeting to order for the Planning and Zoning Commission. Today is February 6th at 6 p.m. We are in City Hall Council Chambers. Notice is hereby given pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act, Vernon's Annotated Civil Statute, Article 6252-17, that the City of Smithville will conduct a planning and zoning meeting on February 6th, 2024 at 6 p.m. in the council chambers located at 317 Main Street, Smithville, Texas. The meeting is now called to order. Item on the agenda is discussion and action on the approval of the minutes from December 5th, 2023. Has everyone had a chance to review these minutes?
Move that we approve the minutes.
A second.
The moves have been moved and seconded. Oh, Nancy? Yes. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Second item, discussion and action on the appointment of the Planning and Zoning Chair.
I'd like to nominate Garrett.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously. Congratulations, Garrett Gutierrez.
That's quick. It's kind of scary. That's quick.
Nancy, she did before I got a chance to.
second. Monica's.
Yeah. So this will be effective the next meeting or this meeting, like effective immediately? Garrett, congratulations, sir. You are now in charge. The chairman.
So the next item on the agenda is discussion and action on the appointment of the Planning and Zoning Vice Chair.
Speaker. Yeah, get in there.
Microphone.
Speak in the mic. Bring it to you.
I would like to
you.
recommend Carolyn Noya.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to have Carolyn Noya as the Vice Chair. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All not in favor, say nay. The ayes have it. Action item number 5, public workshop on orientation and overview of Planning and Zoning Commission. I would assume that's you, Robert.
Thank you, Chairman. Appreciate that. I'd like to welcome Ms. Lee Kilgore as the newest member of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Congratulate both of you for your newly elected offices. Okay. Thanks for taking the time. I thought we would give a little overview. Each of you had some derivative of this presentation when you first got onto the Planning and Zoning Commission. We've made some updates that I want to go over. I also want at the end of this meeting to understand what future topics you'd like to discuss in these types of workshops. Pretty much you were thrown into the water with our guidance. It's tough, but we're a lot better off now than we were 2 or 3 years ago, thanks to Ms. Tracy and her running of this particular city commission. So each of you have this presentation. I'm going to go over these topics, the P&Z basics. We'll talk about the zoning ordinance, briefly touch upon setback requirements, review the subdivision ordinance, and then talk about next steps. The current membership is listed here. I will have to update this chart as it has changed. The chairman is now Garrett, Vice Chairman Caroline Noya. Regarding the city resources, the code enforcement officer is TBD now. Lisa Pierce left our employment. So we have an open rec out for a new code enforcement officer. Lisa Pierce is no longer employed with the city of Smithville. Yes, TBD. So I'll get that updated in the next iteration. Again, you folks know this, as you've served many years, but this is an advisory board. Appointed by the city manager with approval from the council. You serve 2-year terms concurrent with the term of the mayor. And I'm sorry to say that P and Z members serve without compensation. But they're all the perks, right? Okay. You've already elected a chairman and vice chairman. We meet the first Tuesday of the month. If a request is submitted, and this is one of the first times in several years that we haven't had something on the agenda to discuss with respect to planning and zoning from the citizen perspective. Okay. Your basic charter is to review, recommend approval or denial of a variance, zone change, special use permit, and or plat to the city council. Everyone's completed the Open Meetings Act training, yes? Okay, great, thank you. Your basic requirements, the 2 documents that you'll spend most of your time with are the zoning ordinance and the subdivision ordinance. We ask that you follow the P and Z protocol and processes, attend 75% of all the meetings, do research your citizen requests, and most of you have been very good at doing that. I appreciate that. When a citizen brings something, you go out and look in advance so you get more familiarized with what that individual is asking. And you can talk to them. Most of them are very receptive. I don't think anyone's been run off a property yet. Okay. We have to have representation at the city council meetings, which typically follow the week after the P and Z meeting. So between the chairman and vice chairman, we need to make sure there's representation to present to the city council as to what they will be voting on. And you need to support other tasks as assigned or requested. And we're going to talk about a couple of those other tasks at the end of the presentation. Questions so far? Good. The planning and zoning is not responsible for voluntary annexation, licenses to encroach, certificate of appropriateness, 380 economic development agreements, the aesthetic review of or approval of a building design or residential home, and or global warming. Questions? Okay. So these are all things that go to the council without your input. And sometimes that's caused confusion. Well, why didn't we get to see the annexation? That's not part of your charter. Let's talk about zoning. The Magna Carta of our existence is chapter 14, zoning. There are 6 parts. I'm not going to go through each one of those. Each of you have a copy of this document in your binders. I will state that it took us 2 years to update what was to what is. These things take a lot of time to understand, to organize in a manner that's obvious to the casual observer. And one of the key things that we were able to do in this last update, which happened in 2019, was to develop 2020, a master table of uses and a master table of dimensional standards. If you don't have those, I have copies, but they're in your binders. But this is one of the most useful pieces of paper in the document if you want to give those out. And of course, our ordinances or the zoning ordinance is available online. I'm not going to click that because you know how to get there. We do have 19 zoning categories or districts, nor will I spend time going through each of these unless you have a specific question regarding a specific district. Just want to let you know that there are 19 that we deal with. Some on a very infrequent basis, some never, Most of your work's going to be in SF1, SF2, or commercial. Thank you. The planning and zoning map or the zoning map, and this is something we struggle to constantly update, and we haven't done so in a while. There are a couple of other annexed properties that aren't shown here, but it's a color-coded map for your use and the citizens' use if they're looking about what type of properties do we have, what's zoned where, and you can enlarge this because it is an IMAP per se.
Paper map up front that I doodle on, as far as zone changes and stuff like that. So it goes be reprinted. So help me.
And when we do this, it's a shape file that we have to get done with BEFCO engineering. And there are several areas that aren't shown that are annexed. The solar farm is annexed, and this is scheduled for our next update. We do have the Sonic and the truck stop up there by 153 right here. That's annexed, but it's not shown. So I just wanted to give you that heads up. Question.
There are a couple little bitty properties over there on bottom left corner. I think that's Webster. Up a little bit. There you go. It looks like they're colored, but it is outside where city limits is drawn. So how can they be zoned if they're outside city limits?
Through those properties, does it like follow the property line, does it run through them? And I always double check on those because if they don't pay city taxes, they're not, you know what I mean? You might get like services, but they're not paying, they're not on city tax roll. So that's kind of the way that I verify that they are city property, but I think you actually, yeah, it kind of just runs through them, and so therefore they. There's another one that's down there at the bottom. And that's the street that goes from Webster to northwest, like changes.
Yeah, Harper. And it's interesting in that the line of demarcation there is between the county and the city with respect to police response. So it's aggravating. Yeah, if you're on the left side of that line, county. Similarly, if you're in Quail Run, that's county. Good question. Yeah, for whatever reason, Quail Run never made it in. And well, they do, but when we do these annexation, again, you can't go after property like you used to because of legislation 5, 6 years ago. It has to be voluntary annexation. So typically, what mutually beneficial deal can you make that benefits both the city and the developer? Okay, so yeah, we'd love to get annex Quail Run. What the gentleman wants in return is widening of the street and pushing the sidewalks back because it's tough to get a vehicle through there. But you have to look at the return on investment. The cost of widening the streets and pushing the sidewalks back is about north of $350,000. Okay, so how does the city get their payback? Well, typically that's through property taxes. So the entire value, last time I looked at this a year and a half ago, of Quail Run was about 3.4 to $4 million. Each $1 million of property value brings in $5,000, roughly $5,500 of taxes to the city. So if you do the math, that's $20,000. You're spending 200. It doesn't quite meet the smell test.
I thought when someone was annexed, their utilities were charged at 150% of what city residents were charged at. So wouldn't
Just
that
the
be another
reverse.
revenue?
Outside of city limits is 1.5x times what residents pay. Yeah, so for instance,
Utility bills would go down if
If
they're
they
already
annex.
receiving city services there.
Yes.
Okay.
but the utility accounts are in the individual names who live in the property, not the owner of Quail Run. So, unless that number gets better or Mr. Evers is wanting to put in more, it just doesn't make financial sense to offer a 380. Setbacks, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. You've seen, you have the master use chart, you have the master dimension requirement chart. It's just something to visualize a couple of things that people forget sometimes. The front of your property always aligns with the named street. Okay, so we have houses throughout the community that are sideways, but their address may be the named street, but they face to the right. Yeah. But by code, the named street is the front of your house. Okay, and that's how you figure out what setbacks are going on with what, with wherever they want to put their home or build a new home. I added this next chart just for the fun of it. You guys don't deal with this much, but we do when folks want to put in a fence on a corner. You know, it's all about where's the front of the property in relation to the corner and what type of fence that you want to put up. And this illustration kind of shows you what we go through when somebody brings in a request to put a fence. Most recently, it was the 407 Ramona house. You saw a fence go up there. It was a tricky, tedious thing, but we got through it, and it's a great looking fence. But corner lots carry a different, thank you. Corner lots have different requirements.
The fence 3, 4, 6 does not address the additional 2 feet someone has a choice to add if it's not, if it's only 25% coverage.
Or if it's not solid, you can have
Yeah.
an ornamental fence that goes higher if you can see through it. Yeah, so. But you've seen this orientation through town, a lot of places, which works. If it's see-through or 4 feet. If it's this right here, that's that dimension. And these things, they're complicated. We try to give tools to citizens and you guys to visualize what's going on to make it easier to do your job. So this is about 2 years of work, this diagram right here, to clean up, straighten up, verify, validate. So, and then what does that look like? There's other fence requirements that we have. You can't have a 5-foot cyclone fence in the front yard. The last one we had was a variance from Marburger, Miller, Marburger and First area. They had a pit bull that could jump 6 foot. And so she requested the variance and it was granted. But typically anything, it's 4 feet. That's in your front yard. But as you see in this diagram, you can start doing other things the further you get away from the corner. Okay. That's all I had on zoning. Do you guys have any questions about the zoning ordinance, the master table of uses? There's section, the appendix 6 is wonderful because it has your definitions. It has your master table of uses, your master table of dimensional standards. So if you have questions, ask, otherwise we'll move on.
I mean, we've had one.
Yeah.
And did you develop it?
A team of my staff with a consultant came up with that. So 2 years, took 2 years. Yeah. And it's a useful tool for citizens coming in. What can I do in SF1? What can I do in C1? And all of our ordinances are cumulative in nature. So although your property may be zoned C3, they're backwards compatible, meaning you can have a C3 zoned piece of property and still put a duplex on it. But when you do that, you have to follow the category of the use. The use is the key. Okay. All right. Subdivision ordinance. This is another little crazy thing we've tried to improve over the years. Very tedious, very complicated, very confusing with what exists today. This is one of the things you're going to be working in a joint session with the council to update. We have a draft that's probably 55% complete that our legal counsel is working on. We want to do a joint workshop in a couple of months where you'll get with the city council, we'll hash it out. What makes sense, what doesn't. Part of the things that we did, and you all know the definition of a minor plat versus a major plat. You know that, and more than 5 is major, and that's what kicks off the subdivision ordinance. What was confusing, there was no guide to get you through that. If you're a developer that has a subdivision, what do I have to follow? So we sat down and created a series of checklists that we go through before we formally accept a plat. It's what's called the administrative review by my staff. So there are 3 sets of checklists. There's and you have a copy of this, right? So I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but there are certain things on a preliminary plat that have to show up, like the north arrow, the squiggly lines that tell you where the water flow is going to go, the dimensional standards of your lots. If your plat doesn't have that, I won't accept it. The city won't accept it. You got to go back to the drawing board. Because the key here is to give you all something you see on the back of these. You have accepted, denied, approved. That means we've done our homework. It makes your job easier. Okay. So there are basic plat requirements in the first one that just the arrows, the contour lines, but there also are design requirements that get a little more tedious when you start talking about block lengths and block widths. Okay. So those also have to be addressed before we submit the plat for you guys to look at. Now, there is a hierarchy of how we, you have administrative review, you have preliminary plat, you have construction, you have final plat. And we've been questioning, why do you do it that way? Why don't you just do the final plat and the preliminary plat all at once? Well, if it's a major subdivision, things change. And if you do that, if you don't let it go through the process, you could be, the developer would have to come back through and reapply to fix maybe okay, we moved the sidewalk back 5 feet. We have a checks and balances in place. Okay, so you go through this preliminary plat, you have your subdivision design standards. We also have a third-party review of the actual construction plans for the infrastructure. Okay, so if we miss something here by chance, it's going to be caught by the third-party engineering review. It can be fixed and corrected before the final plat. So that's our process with how a developer comes in. We have a subdivision. Did you meet the requirements? Yes. We send it to you guys for approval. You recommend approval. The council approves. Then he goes off and builds it. Well, he gets to get through the construction design review, and then he builds it. Okay. So I'm happy. This was another tool that was as epiphanal as the master use table for people who deal in subdivisions. And I think for you folks that have to approve, well, does it meet X, Y, and Z? Agreed? Awesome. Okay, something that changed a couple years ago, actually 5 now, hard to believe. House Bill 3167. Have you heard us talk about the shot clock? Okay, this is why, again, we do such a thorough administrative review before we formally accept the plat. Once we formally accept the plat, we have 30 days to take action. If you take no action, it's approved by default. So there's a lot of time my staff spends with developers making sure that these requirements are met before you even see it. But once you see it, you got 30 days. And so typically you will find, and that carries a different schedule than what Tracy has developed for variances, zone changes. It gets its own unique timeline. And we can talk about that in a minute, but I wanted to bring this to your attention. Well, why did they get on the agenda? They just came to planning and zoning and they're on the agenda next week because we got 30 days. So I hope you didn't have any questions about that. I think everybody understood that before. Bless you. Oh, okay, that was a lot of stuff in a very short period of time. I want to open this up for questions. Um, we will have future workshops if you'd like to. The two things I mentioned at the beginning of this workshop was the other responsibilities. We're also going to have you guys review the short-term rental ordinance as it has impact upon zoning. Where are you going to allow short-term rentals? Everywhere? Don't know, but wherever that is, once you adopt the short-term rental ordinance, it ties back to the subdivision ordinance. So it's going to create a domino effect of things that have to happen. The short-term rental ordinance is about 75% complete. Jason is also helping us with that. Once we get it to, the little particulars worked out amongst the staff, we'll bring it to you guys in a joint session with the city council to review. Okay? Yes.
Are you also going to, because at the chamber, we're having a committee work on short-term rentals as well. Has anybody contacted you all about working together with them? It's some of the short-term rental owners have come to us with questions and stuff. So we said that their ordinance is being worked on.
Okay, let me update you on something regarding the hot tax. We just signed a contract about 4 months ago to use a service called Avenue Insights that will track all of the short-term rentals in our community. They've identified right now 43 short-term rentals at the last count that are actively on any one of 80 to 100 short-term rental sites. You think of Airbnb and VRBO but there's a bunch of them. Okay. So the intent here, the tool is almost ready for going live. And what this company is going to do for us is contact those individuals who do not currently pay the hot tax and advise them, oh, by the way, you need to pay your hot tax, and here's the process to do such. It also provides a tool for people who are not sure they want an Airbnb, but want to get into that business for them to apply at the state and at the city level. It's a pretty neat tool. I wonder if I can get to it, show you. I can click on a rental and it shows me the property. It shows me the owner. It shows me the time of operation. This platform also gives me the average cost of a rental, the average stay of a rental. It's a very powerful tool that we will have access to very shortly. So I'm thinking about rolling that out in March 1st, the platform, not the ordinance. Because every day I don't have that platform live, as many hot taxes we're not getting.
And this
The
is city
state-
limits, city limit.
Yes.
Okay.
The state also says you can go back 4 years to collect past hot tax that's owed. I don't know if I'm going to be that, but maybe a year. So while that's in the works, we're going to do the short-term rental ordinance. There'll be a special use permit required once we decide where these go. And I don't know the fee, what the special use permit is going to be at this point. Tracy, did we set one yet? Thinking about $100 a year for short-term rental fee, special use permit. That will have to be renewed. But that doesn't mean we can't turn this platform on live and begin gathering, collecting data and hot tax that can be used to pay for the system. You
So
good?
for those that are listening that may not know, hot tax, hotel
Hotel
occupancy.
occupancy tax, heads and beds. Yes, sir.
And then my next question would be is there's a potential that there's a short-term rental out there today that can't operate as a short-term rental later, depending on how it works with the zoning, correct?
That could be true, depending upon what the council or the community, I mean, this isn't going to be done in a
Yeah.
vacuum. You're going to have citizen input
Mhm.
throughout these workshops. The council and you guys could say, well, you can have every zoning class. I don't know if that's going to happen, but yes, there's potential if you said, no, we don't want them in SF1, which that's not going to happen, but I'm trying to think of another zoning class where you wouldn't want one.
For example.
Yeah, you could have a limitation there for sure. So yes, you're correct.
They're gonna be, it'd just be an interesting conversation. Cause yeah, I could see the historic district, but I can also see the benefits from it. So I think it'll be great.
Oh, there are a
input
lot
from
of
the
rentals in the
community.
historic district because of that reason. And the rules that we're establishing, the noise, this tool provides the ability for the neighbors that live around the short-term rental, to file a complaint. And you get so many complaints, then that's logged on that platform. So I'm looking forward to pushing that out. Like I said, March 1st, March 15th timeframe, still working out some bugs.
Well, and not just like the revenue side of it, but there, you got to think of it too, like when an ordinance is passed and they have to register with the city, then we're going to have contact information. We're going to have proof of insurance, or, things that are, details of it. And a lot of times people who have short-term rentals, I will say that I have found out, when they sign it with, say, Airbnb or VRBO, they hear we take care of the taxes. They hear we take care of all your taxes. And a lot of those sites just take care of the state tax. I think that it'll be useful, educational, because if you don't know, you don't know. So, so there's going to be a lot of perks, I think, to having the ordinance.
As of today, we're not getting any.
Oh, yeah,
Hot tax.
we are getting hot tax from some of the Airbnbs, the bed and breakfast for sure, the hotel, which is our biggest
Mhm.
supplier of hot tax, is the hotel on the highway. So,
Okay, there's also county tax, is there not?
county,
A county one?
we have nothing to do with that. But
No. That's.
yeah, it's
that was
outside the
right
city
outside
limits,
the
right?
city
Correct,
limits, Yeah.
correct. Another one of those extra things we want you to help with is the comprehensive plan. You guys are key to that.
What is the amount of the tax
What?
for the city?
7% minus 1% if you pay early.
Okay.
6%. So you threw me off there. Oh, yeah. So comprehensive plan. All right. What's the date? I'm losing my mind. I have a date in March sometime that escapes me. We will have our first, March 11th. Thank you. We'll have our first public meeting on the comp plan. It's to go over, here's the timeline, here's the process. It'll be at the council meeting. But what's going to happen thereafter, every month or every other month, there'll be a series of stakeholder meetings that are going to last 2 hours each for the next 6 months, 6 to 9 months. This is where the community comes in and gives their input. What's important to them? What do you want to see in the land use, historic guidelines? All the things that we have in the existing comp plan now are going to be pushed forward. What are the needs of your community? And that will last 16, 18 months of work. And you'll have a new comp plan. For those of you who've been around long enough, we did this in 2007, 2011, and 2012, the comp plan. 95% of the action items from 2007, if not 98%, have been completed. So it's not something that just stayed on the shelf. That's going to be part of these meetings also. This is what you've done. This is what you want. This is how you get there. And it's a lengthy process, but rightly so, because you're setting the tone for the next 10 years as to what you want to be. Okay?
A question about language to use when making approvals?
Yes. Approval for what? Oh,
The language.
yeah, for the variance language?
Yeah.
Okay.
What I never understood is, since we are a recommendation only body, how can we move for approval or denial? Why don't we move to recommend approval or recommend denial?
Should say recommend. Okay, we can fix that. You're not approving, your recommendation body. We recommend denial based on the following, justice is served. Yeah, that was a council. That's the actual, I think, isn't that the council, language?
Yeah, and it is
What I'm looking
labeled.
at right there says, I recommend, or we move to approve, we move to deny. It
Yeah, and
doesn't say recommend.
That's pulled out of the zoning ordinance.
Yeah.
for 5.5.3 for consideration by council. So that's
Yeah.
just copy and paste.
It's just copied. We-
There's not an actual section that says for
Correct.
P and Z.
So should that be changed to,
For
I
the-
move to recommend
For
approval?
P and Z use, yes, we can do that. Don't take it literal. We'll just we'll mark that the P and Z. It was a tool to try to help you through it because I've seen y'all. If you don't have that, it's tough to remember those 5 things. I couldn't do it just then. It's been a while.
We have it in the front of our books.
Oh, you do? But it needs to say a recommend approval,
Yeah.
not approve the variance. Recommend to the council. Good question. What else? Future topics. What would you like to see?
Up on, what parameters might make sense for rezoning to allow for ADUs
Okay? I think that
to facilitate affordable housing in the community?
that will be a part of the comprehensive planning process. That's going to be a big discussion because we just had this whole guest house on Tiger Lane. And the ability for someone to place an ADU is restricted now because of our zoning, with the exception of an accessory building as a guest house. That will be addressed during the comp plan. So I don't know if I don't want to duplicate efforts by having a separate meeting, but you guys are going to be involved in those meetings. So if you didn't have enough meetings to go to every month, now we're going to have more. Which is good.
Can we speed it up to do 2 meetings a month instead of 1 meeting every month? So we get the comprehensive plan in half the time, since we've been waiting a long time already?
All negotiable with the vendor who's coming in to facilitate the meetings, for sure. Faster doesn't mean, slow and steady often wins versus fast. I get it. We want to make sure we capture everyone's input and everyone's needs from all of our community. So, other questions? The schedule. I don't know if you have the schedule in front of you? This is when people have to get their information in. Sometimes folks are confused about that. Well, it's 2 months away. Why can't I just put it on the agenda? Because that's not how it works, because of the notifications. You folks know we have to notify people 200 feet within whatever property is being evaluated for a variance, a zone change, so forth and so on. That takes time to notify and money to do. Notices have to be made in the paper and also given to the other landowners. But the schedule's online. You have it. I think each of you have a copy. The next meeting we're scheduled to have, I guess, is March 5th. Yes. Anybody up for grabs on March 5th, or do we know? Okay. Well, the deadline to submit that for regular submissions was January 17th. So it looks like March 5th, you might not have a meeting either. That's a replat. Shot clock.
We could have happy hour.
Would justice be served, Monica? Would you- okay. All right. That's all I have. Thank you. Thank you. Useful, not useful?
Very
Yeah.
useful.
Okay, good. Sorry it took so long. I did. My bad.
No, y'all did one, but I think I was traveling.
Oh, probably so.
Well, I know that we did it whenever I came on, whenever that was, and then you came on right after it.
We were at the same time, but I was.
You were just out. Okay. Okay.
I don't remember it happening before you became city manager. Remember, I go back.
The one I had was from 20.
We were given the book. And that was,
1978, I recall. No, I'm kidding. Thank you.
well, you
Nancy.
were a kid in 70, you were here,
I
but you were
was a
a
little
kid.
child, babe in the woods. I don't have any other business. If you want to ask for adjournment, you're welcome to do so, Chairman.
Before you ask for adjournment, Mr. Chairman, can I just say thank you, Tracy, for all the work that goes behind
Yep.
making sure that everyone crosses their Ts and
Yeah.
dots their Is and makes our job easier.
Yes, ma'am. Good.
Making this.
Have to get some practice. If no one else has anything else, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I move we adjourn this meeting.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
Everybody not in favor? No, no nays. So we're done. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Ralph.
Motion carries. See, I gotta learn the language.
It'll take you a decade to get this, Brian.
Yeah,
You-
that's
you got
right.
the mind of it.
And a law degree. You got the law degree.